Force Revolution.
Welcome to the Inconvenient Vedic Truths, Part 3. Why is there suffering in the world? If there's a God, it's a common question. A lot of people will say it can't be God, because if God by definition is all-powerful and all-knowing, then we can take a look around and see so much suffering in the world, so much famine, war, misery. Almost everywhere there's some degree of suffering, sometimes it's intense. So if that God was all-merciful, all-knowing and all-powerful, then it would just, with a snap of the fingers, we wouldn't be able to just fix all the problems. But there's a very simple solution to this in 2 words, and that is free will and karma. So we all have free will. We can all do whatever we want. We can get up and choose to do what we want, unless someone's stopping us, unless perhaps you're in prison. But those of us who are not, we can get up, choose to do what we want, go where we want. So clearly we have some kind of free will, although it's limited, of course. There's a limit on that, but anyway, we have the free will to do action, which is karma. So the Sanskrit word karma simply means action, to do things, and it's divided into 3. So you've got karma, vikarma, akarma. So karma generally means a good action, vikarma is a bad action, and akarma is non-reactive. To that in a minute. So every action causes a reaction. So if we do something good, then we get a good result, not straight away. Like you plant a tree, it takes some time to fructify from the seed, and then it gradually grows, and then it gives you fruit. So karma is a bit like that. That we have what's called aparabdha karma. So it's not yet fructified. Or before that you have a bija in the seed form, and then it becomes gradually fructified, and then we get the result. So we either get a good result and we enjoy that, or we get a bad result and we suffer. Or it can be a mix. It's very complicated, the whole action and reaction, the chain. Difficult for us to understand exactly. And then akarma is that which is done on the spiritual platform. The examples given in analogies, like if you're told to go and fight in a war, then acting under the order of the general, you may be causing harm, but you're not doing it for your personal gain, you're doing it out of your duty. And so the person that's actually instructed you, they're actually taking the action. So it's a similar thing in Bhakti Yoga, in the Supreme Krishna. You do everything for him in devotional service, then you're free of the reaction, of the good and bad reaction. Otherwise, it says that other actions that we perform just for our own personal pleasure, then they accrue, and then they're going to fructify into either happiness or suffering. So oftentimes we don't really know what to do. We are looking for pleasure in this world, so we're looking for sensual pleasure. Senses interact with the sense objects. We chase after them, and then we're doing actions to try and gain some kind of pleasure on the material platform. But those actions are often causing harm. For example, if you want to go and eat lunch, then you go down to McDonald's, God forbid, but you order your burger and you enjoy it. But what produced that burger was the suffering of an animal. The cow that had to be taken to slaughter and chopped up to produce the burger. Well, you can't be free of that reaction, because it all balances out perfectly in the universe, that if you're creating suffering, then ultimately the suffering comes back, and Chaitanya, the Yuga avatar for the current age, he said that I'm eating the flesh of an animal that will one day be eating my flesh. So it's not really a proposal to do something where in the future you're going to suffer. You may have a tiny amount of enjoyment. How much enjoyment? 5 minutes eating your lunch, and then you have to suffer the reaction of that. So of course, just being vegetarian is not enough in getting free from reaction. That's not what I'm proposing or what the Vedas propose, because there's a lot of suffering all in that, despite plants not being able to feel pain. Then actually a lot of animals are also killed in the process of, say, clearing the fields. So there's a lot of unintentional harm caused. So it's certainly reduced. If you go vegetarian, then it certainly reduces a huge amount of karma, but it doesn't completely free you from the cycle, because we're still on the mature platform of doing karma and akarma rather than, karma and vikarma rather than akarma, non-reactive. So this explains the predicament, that why there's suffering there. Why doesn't Almighty God stop it? Well, we've been given free will. We're not slaves, but we are given free will. So we've chosen that free will to wander around this material world, to try and enjoy creating, we're making actions, we're actually creating different bodies. Why not do that on a larger scale? So that's why eventually, you see so much suffering, because there's so much reaction going on. It's like a whole chain reaction, and it tends to spiral down and get worse. So so to carry on doing that action, that's going to just further entangle us. But if we take up the process that's going to free us from that, then gradually the action and reaction, we can cut the chain of that. But we can only do it by acting on a spiritual level, because if we're looking for pleasure, then we have to get that pleasure from within, from connection to super soul within, to God. First of all, we have to have an understanding of what that is. But behind me is a temple of Ganesh. Now a lot of people are going there, praying to this form of Ganesh, or is a devata or a demigod, for something material. Generally speaking, people are going to go to a temple, a church, or the mosque. Oh, please give me money. Please give me this. Please help me in my exams, whatever it is. But they're all asking for something material. Now, the devatas, the demigods, are a little bit like the government. It's a bit like bribing a government official to get something you want. So you can, according to your kind of karmic bank account, you can get what you desire if you deserve it within your sort of karmic bank account. But ultimately, the devatas, they can't give you liberation, even up to the topmost one of the Brahma, mature world. He can't give liberation. Hiranyakashipu, one ancient king, he actually approached Brahma. He said, I want to be immortal. Brahma said, well, I'm not immortal, so I can't give what I haven't got. So then he gave him all kinds of benedictions, as if he's not going to be killed the day or the night, or inside or outside, or by any weapon. And then God appears as Nrsimhadev, half man, half lion. So he's not killed by a man or an animal, because it's half and half. He wasn't killed at the day or night. He was killed at dusk. He wasn't inside or outside. He was in the doorway. All the benedictions were kept, but he was still destroyed. So that's the power of God. The pastimes of God. The intelligence is without contradicting any of the benedictions that Brahma had given. He still killed him. So you can read that. That's in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana. So going back to people coming to these sort of temples, then they're trying to get something, or they may be trying to relieve the suffering, but there's only limit to what these devatas, demigods can do, in that actually all their power is actually coming from above, higher up than the Supreme, and so ultimately, the one God alone, the Supreme Ishvara, Parameshvara, Sri Krishna, he's actually giving the ability to those. So it's a roundabout way of getting what you want. Even if you want some material, if you pray directly to the Supreme Godhead, then you can get that. But asking for something material is just going to increase the problem. So we need a spiritual benediction. People don't walk out of this temple with enough knowledge to realise how to actually get out of the suffering that they're in. So we need knowledge. So certainly we can go to a temple and pray, and it will help us. But without sufficient knowledge, then we're not really going to be able to get out of the predicament we're in. So that knowledge is there in the Vedas. It's especially condensed in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it explains all about action and reaction, and it basically it can take us out of the suffering. Gradually we can become free from suffering, and when we're free from the material world altogether, then there is no suffering. In Vaikuntha, in the spiritual realm, it's eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge, Satchidananda. So that's what we're looking for here. But this world is Asat Achit Nirananda. It's temporary, full of ignorance, and full of all kinds of misery. So it's all the opposite. It's a bit like if you take a fish out of water, it's never going to be happy. It needs to go back in the water. So we're out of the water, in a sense. We're out of our natural realm of being in the Satchidananda, and now we're stuck in the material realm, and so therefore we're always going to be suffering to some degree or another, even from the highest planet to the lowest planet. Brahma, Bhuvanaloka, Puna Avatu Arjuna. From the highest planet in the material world, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, to the lowest, they're all places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, Krishna's abode, is completely free from that. So that's the ultimate goal. But even if you start the process, then straight away you're relieved. You're relieved from some anxiety, a lot of suffering in the mind. So it relieves that immediately. The action or reaction stops gradually, and then the suffering diminishes, and then eventually we can reach the supreme destination where there is no suffering. So Vaikuntha is the place where there's no suffering, no anxiety. It's full of anxiety, full of problems. So we're trying to fix the problems on the material platform, but we end up sometimes creating more problems. So we need to get to the root. We need to cut the tree down to the root. If you just cut a branch off, it just grows back again. But if you cut the root, so we cut the root with ignorance, with the sword of knowledge, and engage in the process of